All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's kick off the first practice debate of the 2011-2012 season. Give it to him, Patrick.
So we have 7 minutes.
7 minutes, baby.
Okay.
Kick it off.
Okay, I'm going to go. Okay. So, to begin with, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. Thank you, opponents, judge, and corporate partner. We're debating the motion the United States federal government should do more to fight unemployment. So, a quick roadmap, and it's quite a complicated roadmap, so keep it in mind. We're going to go over some quick definitions, judging criteria, then we're going to go over some background before going over our plan, and then our plan comes with 2 parts, which means there are 2 sections of our advantages. And with that, I'm going to go in. So definitions are quite obvious. The United States federal government, as you know, should do more, really any change in what is already being done to fight unemployment as to decrease those unemployed. It's pretty obvious. Judging criteria as net benefits. Okay, so with this, I'm going to go into some background. The California high-speed rail system was approved for construction in 2005. The cost estimated to pay for this project of 800 miles of high-speed rail is $35.7 billion. However, California can't pay for that. Since 2005, we still don't have enough money to pay for that. They received $4.3 billion from the United States federal government at that time. When we were in a better state of the economy, they were expecting for it to be easier to raise the money. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was governor, put aside $4.7 billion from the state budget. So with that, we have $9 billion out of $35.7 billion. Our plan today is, part 1, the United States federal government to give California the rest of the $35.7 billion, which is $26.7 billion, to help pay for this construction to start immediately, ASAP. Part 2 is, because this will be such a successful plan, we feel it's going to catch on in the other states. So when we take this money out from defense, this is going to be our source, we're going to take $200 billion up for grabs for any of the other states who wish to implement the same sort of plan. With that, I'm going to go right into part A of our advantages, and that is purely California's advantages. In California alone, this plan would give you 150,000 temporary construction jobs and 450,000 permanent jobs from this alone. Now, think about this. Let's think about the impact of this. When people get jobs, they get lots more money. I mean, given that they were originally at 0. That money is spent on groceries, toys when they get enough money for it, and this money goes back in the economy, thus stimulating the economy, making it better, making more jobs, so that when these temporary jobs are over, they get a permanent job, possibly making even more money than they were before. So, long-term effect, I mean, immediately, all these people, there are 150,000 construction jobs and 450,000 permanent jobs, maintaining the rail, etc. That's immediately. And then the economy is boosted as a net effect from this. And with that, more jobs, more money, etc. Number 2 is the surplus, the extra money the money we will get from implementing this plan as an extra, just to put into the economy, put into education, wherever the state feels is necessary. In California, there will be a net surplus of $2.23 billion by 2023. So this is a long-term thing. But this is net money. This is money that we can choose to spend anywhere we want. Education, health, anywhere, social security, wherever the state sees fit. Now, I'm going to go for the last of California's advantages before I go into the country's advantages. Alright, this will alleviate the need to spend $100 billion to build miles of freeway, airport runways, like departure gates, all these different things that have to be fixed after years of, I've written it down, 1 million cars going over it over and over. Statistically, making this high-speed runway is the equivalent to taking 1 million cars off the road. This is just in California alone. And this is only in the 800-mile span of where the rail is. So, in which case, I'm going to go into part 2 of our advantages, which is the impact on the United States, because this is going to catch on. There aren't any detriments to this plan. There's only jobs and more money, which is exactly what we want. And so with that, the $200 billion will end up going to other states, such as maybe New York, Florida, the East Coast. Keep in mind, California is an enormous state. That's 800 miles. Most states don't even have 800 miles distance in them. So that money would cover, half the East Coast if we need just that $26.7 billion, so $35.7 billion overall. So this is more broad. Our first is that of jobs. Millions and millions of jobs building these rails. Just as someone brought up earlier in today's practice, money and jobs comes from manufacturing, and we have to manufacture not only the rails and the wood that goes under the rails. There are so many components of this. You also have to build build the freight, build the wheels. There are so many components to these enormous vehicles. There's jobs alone, just manufacturing them, repairing them throughout the years, as well as being immediate jobs, temporary, making the first one. You have to keep making them and making them, because as they're used, they wear down. The second is, let's impact that out. Once again, this money that you make, these jobs, this money goes back into the economy, boosting the economy, making it so there are even more jobs. I mean, it's kind of a trickle-down effect, but it's more like a trickle-up effect, because this affects the entire population. First, I'm going to go over the second one, and then I'll take you through this time. Our second is that of competition. Now, if you remember, for example, when the colonies were around, when there were cities were built around rivers, because that was the main form of transportation. So this railway creates competition, because cities with these high-speed rails are positioned to receive more business, more people coming in, more tourists, more people just passing through. This is more business, more money for these shops in that area. So this adds to more money, boosting the economy. This is third and final, just to tip off, and it pays off, as well as it being, alright, so part one, this is of California. California has already passed this plan, so the population is a go. But on top of this, 88% of all Americans approve of this plan. So there's the support from the people, but on top of this, it pays for itself by simply reducing $700 billion a year from oil purchase trade deficits. So it pays for itself, and it has net surplus of money along with jobs. So with that, I urge a vote in the proposition. Thank you. Sorry, do you want to try planning? Oh wait, this isn't public.
Coming from the king who wants to go time for some community party. Let's not talk. Okay. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Alright, so as just a quick roadmap, I have a lot to get through, so I may be talking a little bit too fast, but I won't be spreading, but I'm going to go through their case first and then our case. So let's talk about their case. We accept their definitions, however, we think their plan is kind of somewhat ridiculous, and we're going to go into their contentions of A and B kind of as it was split up. They had 1, 2, 3 on side A and then 1, 2, 3 on side B. Although before I go into these contentions, I would like to mention that their first contention on side A and their first contention on side B were pretty much both jobs, so you can collapse those two. So now we've just taken 6 of their arguments and made them 5, but we're going to refute all 5 of those very diligently and show you how they really don't stand in today's debate. But first off, let's go into the high-speed rail. They say, yeah, there's $35.7 billion, and that the U.S. federal government is going to give California $26 billion, and it's going to be constructed immediately, it's going to be super successful. In fact, I quote them, they said, we feel it will catch on. However, we as the opposition team feel that it will not catch on. And actually, we don't just feel this, we know this. How do we know this? Because according to empirical evidence, there's already existing an Axle train going from Boston to D.C. Right now, there's one high-speed rail in the United States of America. There's one. And do you know why there's only one? Because it was a total fail. The high-speed rail was absolutely a failure. There's only one because it didn't do anything. Here's why. One, it's super expensive. The high-speed rail costs 3 times as much as a plane trip. A flight from Boston to D.C. costs $67, whereas a train trip costs $180 on average. And I'm not just citing these examples because we actually debated this in April. So I know these statistics and I know what I'm talking about. It costs 3 times as much. If you're about to take a train from Boston to D.C., are you going to pay 3 times as much? Are you going to take out the money in your pockets? You're already hurting. You're not going to pay that money. So since we've just proven this point alone that it costs more, negates all of their benefits. Because if we can prove that it's never going to happen, it's never going to catch on, if they feel it will catch on, but we've proven to you that it won't catch on, all of their benefits drop. It won't catch on because it's too expensive, no one's riding it. If people aren't riding it, it's not successful. People aren't going to be doing it. But there's more detrimental impacts than just the fact that it's more expensive. So let's go into the point, sorry. So their first point is that it'll create 150,000 construction jobs. But if I've just proven to you that it's not successful and it won't happen and it was a fail in the past, then they're not going to create these jobs because, sure, you can build one high-speed rail, but then it'll be a fail and you'll actually lose these jobs. Actually, what you can do, judges, is you can turn this argument, because what they're doing, this is super important, please drop your pens. What they're going to do is they're going to take a high-speed rail and say, here's another way to transport yourself. And then people are going to say, okay, well, ride the high-speed rail. Those people that are now riding the high-speed rail are not flying. They're not driving. So you're taking jobs away from the airport industry. You're taking jobs away from the auto industry. You're making gas companies and Chevron stations go down in the dirt. You're saying that the people in Oregon who fill up your gas tank are going to be losing their jobs because now they're taking the hypothetical high-speed rail that's already a fail. Moreover, the people that work in all the airports, all the security personnel, all the pilots, it's really important. All of these people will be losing their jobs. Sure, you create 150,000 jobs over here. That's really great. But you lose maybe more than 150,000 jobs over here. So you're not creating new jobs, you're moving jobs. And if we can prove to you that this new move of jobs actually decreases, then we should win today's debate. So if we look at it, all of their benefits, yes, their benefits, we're not going to argue their benefits. The fact that their benefits could exist if this plan were feasible, if this plan were going to be successful. Our only refutation to their case is your plan will not be solvent, it will not be successful. Because I've just given you this really fleshed out solvency disadvantage, then all of their benefits fall. All of their benefits of creating jobs, of competition, and really there is no competition because you're not going to compete with something that's failing. A million cars off the road, I already told you, you take money away from the auto industry. Surplus, no, you're not actually, according to empirical evidence, you have no surplus. All of their 6 contentions, which are actually classed as 5 contentions, really have no benefits of their side in the case today because the past high-speed rail was a complete failure. Let's go into our off case. We say that we're going to counterplan, and we're going to say that we're going to counterplan with something that's called a stimulus. So this is a whole new column. This is an off case. These are completely new points that we made up on our own time. So what we're doing is that the U.S. federal government, in 2008, the U.S. federal government spent $780 billion as a stimulus, and it was quite successful. We, however, are going to redo that basically, and we're going to our counterplan is that the U.S. federal government would spend $800 billion to create stimulus cards, and these stimulus cards are like gift cards. It's saying that you would spread this $800 billion out to every single person in America, and that's pretty much about on average $2,000 per person. So Patrick would get $2,000, I get $2,000, his mom get $2,000. It's like a little gift card. The plan is pretty simple, and the only requirement is that you have to spend this $2,000 within 9 months, and if you don't spend it within 9 months, it goes away. So clearly, everyone's going to spend the $2,000. Now, there's 2 benefits to our plan that really is much better than their plan. Our first is that it ensures economic growth. If you look at it, this money is going to be injected directly into the economy. You're not just saying, hey, we're going to give you $800 billion and we're going to make a couple temporary jobs, a couple good jobs. No, the Americans are injecting this money directly into the economy. So by saying this, we practically assure 100% solvency. It's going to be more successful than the $780 billion that was injected in 2008 because it's going to be more successful because we're not talking about just marginal benefits. We're not talking about creating temporary jobs. The Americans are choosing where they want it to go. If you're spending your $2,000 on Jamba Juice is going to grow. It's going to become an industry. It's going to hire more people. This is fixing unemployment. This is hiring people. This is actually making a change. So we can actually see that this plan, the impact of this plan is that it's 100% solvent. We're not redoing an Amtrak train, or we're not redoing an XL train that was already a fail in the past. We're redoing something that is guaranteed to have success. Wouldn't you rather vote for a plan that you're guaranteed to have success on, and you're guaranteed to have the benefits, than vote for a plan that you don't really know if it's going to happen, you have fear, you have uncertainty, you have doubt? Let's go to our second point within the last minute. Our second point is that the Americans choose. Sub-point A is that you have transparency. When the Americans are choosing where they're spending their money, we actually see that there's decreased U.S. federal government backlash. The people are saying, I trust the government now because they're giving me money to spend. They're making me a citizen of the United States. They're making me, they're making me a person of the United States. The impact goes threefold. 1, it increases civic civic duty. 2, increases participation in elections. And 3, increases democracy. Are we a democracy? Are we the United States of America? Or are we just the U.S. federal government of America? We want to be the people. We want to be the people who spend the money of our government. We want to be in charge. We want to be a democracy. Give the power to the people. When you give the power to the people, you have transparency and you have success in the right areas, which is subpoint B, success in the right areas, because Americans are choosing what industries they want, what businesses they want, not what the federal government is choosing. So the final impact of this is you're not just improving, you're improving in the right direction and the democratic direction. We have solvency, we have the correct direction, and we have the democratic direction. They have a plan that has failed in the past and will most certainly fail if they implement it now. Choose the plan that's better. Ask for the vote. Thank you.
Give an alternate judging criteria. But maybe you didn't need one.
Is everyone ready? Okay, as I begin my speech, I'd like to extend my partner's blanket of thanks to both our opponents, the judges, the audience, and my partner himself. Okay, so the motion that we're debating today is the United States federal government should do more to fight unemployment. We proposed a very solid plan talking about the high-speed rail. Not only are we going to be speeding up the construction of the California high-speed rail, but we're going to be giving we're going to be putting $200 billion up for grabs for all the states in the United States to use for their own high-speed rail systems because of its success. Now, we had many advantages not only for California but for the United States on a statewide and a federal economic level. And well, you can review all of our advantages if you need to. The opposition team has come up here and they've tried to refute our entire case, all 6 of our advantages on both the state and federal level, on the basis that it's not going to catch on because the Excel train from Boston to DC is a failure. Now, the Excel train from Boston to DC and a high-speed train are absolutely different things that we're talking about here. Okay, the regular rail is entirely inefficient because guess how fast it goes? 60 miles per hour. Our high-speed rail system is going to go 220 miles an hour. The regular rail system at 60 miles an hour is inefficient, it's more expensive, it uses more oil, that's why it's more expensive for people to use it. The high-speed rail system is not only going to be less expensive because it uses less oil, because it goes so much faster, but we know our statistics, we know what's going on with our high-speed rail, they've gotten us confused, they're not the same thing, and so our advantages still stand. Yes?
I'm sorry, I think about the normal speed rail that you're talking about is Amtrak. The one from Boston to DC is not Amtrak. It is a legit high-speed rail.
Okay. Well, they've never this Amtrak thing. In our research, we've discovered that the only high-speed rail systems around most of them are in Japan. They're in China. We don't have these large-scale high-speed rail systems in the United States. We've got trains going like 70 miles an hour tops, and that's what they call high speed here. These are designed to be more efficient. The tracks are, the trains are. It's going 220 miles an hour. All our advantages still stand because it's an entirely different system that we're talking about here. Now, when they attacked our advantages individually, what they really talked about was jobs, and we're talking about unemployment here. That's the motion that we're debating. And they said, oh, well, these jobs aren't going to work because it takes from the plane. It takes from airports and it takes from the auto industry, but we're creating an entire different industry on our own. We're creating an industry of high-speed rail systems. It's going to be an entire new industry. It's going to have its own jobs, and these 150,000 temporary jobs just in California alone, our plan is going to be creating those jobs no matter what. So that's going to be 150,000 jobs. That's going to be 150,000 people with more money to bring home to their family, with more consumer confidence, with more money to put in the pockets of businesses throughout California. Please keep this in mind as I take the last few lines.
Yeah, you say you're making an entire new industry, but you're not going to build a high-speed rail from Santa Rosa to Windsor or from Windsor to Healdsburg. I'm still going to be using my car. I'm still going to be using the old industry as well.
We're not talking about from Santa Rosa to Healdsburg. We're talking about throughout the state. So we're still using the old industry. We're still using them locally. What we're doing is creating a new system for people to go farther without using their cars, without using this gas. So there's a new industry. industry, it immediately boosts the economy too. So in ours, there's going to be new jobs immediately. There's going to be people using this different system immediately. That's a ton of new jobs, a ton of consumer confidence straight into our economy. Now, they, okay, so then their plan was the $800 billion for stimulus cards, and that's about $2,000 a person, and they have to use it within a certain time frame. Now, they talked a lot about fear, uncertainty, and doubt in our plan. What I'd like to point out is that all of this fear, uncertainty, and doubt exists right in their plan. They never once stated where this money is coming from. This is a novice mistake, and because of it, their plan is completely nullified. Do we know where this money is coming from? That's even more money than we're using in our plan. Our plan total is, what, $227 billion? They're with $800 billion. That is $800 billion, and we have no idea where it's coming from. Is it coming from defense, or is it coming from healthcare? Is it coming from healthcare, or is it coming from our education system? It could be coming from anywhere, and we don't even know. This plan can't happen, so it doesn't matter, what benefits they have, because it's never going to happen. And then they talk, their plan itself, there are no immediate jobs created from this plan. People have $2,000, so they can go buy a couple new iPads? They're not going. It's not going to create a surplus of jobs. It's not going to create more consumer confidence in the long run, and it's less money for us to create an entire new industry. With $600 billion less in our plan, we're creating an entire industry. We're creating immediate jobs on both a California level as well as spreading this throughout the entire country. Please keep this in mind as I take the final POI.
Yes, but if I do buy a couple iPads, then am I not supporting Apple company, which then can grow, which can invest, which can innovate
We're
technology,
talking about
create
no
more
immediate
jobs.
jobs. No immediate jobs from their plan. Whether or not they're going to have a few more iPads bought from Apple, or whether they're going to be buying into these big gigantic industries, this is money that people can take down to the local grocery store owned by Jimmy and Lisa, the couple that hasn't had a problem or that has had a problem with getting money home to their plates. So it's not just going to be about the people getting the jobs, but it's going to be about the people supporting local industries as well as nationwide ones. So this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, it exists in their plan. They never once stated where this money is coming from. They can't come up here and tell you because that's a moving plan and that's absolutely against the rules. So their plan exists as it is, and as it exists right now, it cannot happen because we don't even know what it is. Whereas our plan, less money, more benefits. We have California benefits. We have United States benefits. So we're not only just getting rid of the problem of unemployment, but we're helping with we're creating this entire industry, and you really need to keep this in mind at the end of today's debate. What is the judging criteria? The judging criteria is net benefits. The benefits of theirs, everybody gets $2,000. The benefits of ours, 150,000 get temporary jobs in California, 450,000 get permanent jobs in California, and then take all of the benefits, that plus the $2.3 billion surplus, plus the no need for the $100 billion, which is taking even more money. Plus taking in 1 million cars off of the road just in California. Take all of those benefits from California, multiply it by 7, and that's about what we could be getting just from the $200 billion initial dollars in countrywide. So that's all of our benefits. Multiply them by 7. That is our plan. Theirs is $2,000 a person, and we don't even know where the $2,000 a person is coming from. Thank you.
Pirate sword fights.
Yeah.
This is well done.
Is this how university is did?
It's called what? Junior high?
Or
No,
this?
this is. She's asking if everybody's this good.
Oh, and novice, they suck, don't worry.
We have a very high winning rate in our novice division.
Yeah, you're going to be so much
We'll win a
more
lot.
prepared than everybody else. You're going to
Okay,
keep
we're on
on
tape.
race.
Let's go.
All right, is everyone ready?
I don't need to cut off
Judges?
the cordial conversation.
Okay. Let me start. Okay, with that, I'll start. On behalf of the opposition team, I just want to again extend thank yous to everybody for being here, especially our judging panel in the back. I know you guys have given up your time, and I think we all sincerely thank you. With that, I'm going to first give you a little brief overview of what I'm covering in today's debate. I'm going to first just give a brief overview at the Acela train, clear up some of the miscalculations made, and then by both teams, and then I'm going to go in and look at the proposition's team's plan, look at their the contentions that they brought up, and then address the opposition team's own off case. With that, let's look at the Acela train. I know my partner brought this up, and he brought this up in refutation to their general plan and their plan text.
their plan, as we all know, is to give California $26 billion to help develop its train program. And my partner pointedly brought up the fact that we already have a high-speed train in the United States. It's this Acela train that runs from New York City down to, from Boston down to Washington, D.C. It runs across the eastern seaboard. Now, the second speaker on the opposition team stood up here and she made the statement that this doesn't exist. There's no such thing as high-speed rail in the United States. There are only trains that go 60 miles per hour, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't exist. There are just those in Japan and China. Well, the reality is that that's a fallacy right there. There are trains throughout the world, Japan, China, like they said, also France, and some European countries, but they also exist in the United States through this one Acela train. This Acela train is run by Amtrak. I know that's my partner may have made a mistake there by saying that it wasn't Amtrak. It actually is run through the Amtrak department. This is their train. It's the Acela train. And perhaps even scarier is that it is Amtrak, because that means it's getting subsidized by the U.S. government, and even with those subsidies, it still costs 3 times as much. But before I again go over and relook at the exorbitant costs of the Acela train and high-speed rail in the United States, I would like to take their first of 2 POIs.
Okay, thank you. The Amtrak train that they're speaking of is a train designed to go 220 miles per hour. It has been put, this is for cost's sake that they decided to do it back then when they made it, on a regular train rail. Therefore, it is only allowed to go 69 miles per hour, thus making it inefficient and much more badly cost-effective, which is what my opponent is speaking of.
No, that's false. That I don't know if the train reaches maximum speeds of 220 miles per hour, but it does reach speeds at least above 130 miles per hour. I can't give you the whole background of the manufacturer and all their mechanical specifics, and I don't think that that's what this debate should be, but it's clearly shown that the Acela train does exist. And you can get a flight from Southwest for $69 going up the seaboard like that, whereas with this train it costs over $150. Now, yes, okay, I'll take your final POI. Okay. But again, let's address their benefit and say, even if this were to work, let's say even if it were to work, all that they would be doing is shuffling jobs around. They would just be sending air jobs to the train industry. They said, no, we're creating an entirely new industry, so there will be new jobs. We agree with them on their first part. They're creating an entirely new industry. But their second idea that all these new jobs will just magically flourish is a complete fallacy. The reality of the situation is that this new industry is going to be created, and it's going to pull both customers and then, henceforth, employees to the train industry. Jobs will go from the air industry to the train industry. They have not been able to combat this point successfully. With that, because we were able to show that high-speed rail is so much more effective and that it's not going to create jobs, we were able to negate all of their points. They didn't readdress all of these points individually, so I think we can just move on. These points have been defeated. Before I get into my case and look at the real benefits and extend argumentation on our case, I would like to take their final POI.
If, as your partner pointed out, people are still going to use these industries, these are not destroyed industries like the air and the automobile, but the jobs are going to creating an entirely new industry, manufacturing, rails, implementation, maintaining everything, then, I don't really see that big of a detriment.
I think I should clarify what my partner said. He did say that people will still be using, or that the train would take, it would result in some people maybe taking their car from Santa Rosa to San Francisco if that option were available. But let's remember that the train that you suggest won't take people from San Francisco to Santa Rosa. It's going to go right down the California coast, not stop in towns like Santa Rosa. That was the point he was hinting at. The point that cars will still be on the road, there'll still be that they'll still be on the road, but jobs will be taken away from the air industry, and there will be negative effects of your plan. I'm sorry, I've taken both POIs. I'm sorry, I have a lot to get through. I took 2. I even offered to take one of them, and you stepped down, so I have to move on. Let's look at our plan, and that's our counter plan of this stimulus cards plan. The $800 billion is spent through stimulus cards that work sort of like gift cards, where the amount expires within 9 months, so it sort of forces people to spend. Now, their main concern, and almost only concern with the plan, was that they asked, where is the money coming from? Apparently, we didn't specifically state where the money was coming from. Well, my partner did. He said that the money would be dispersed in the same way that it was in the 2008 stimulus, where we borrowed the money. Because he said that we effectively made up a system. No, we are not taking money away from the defense industry like their plan is, but the reality is that we don't need to. We can spend through borrowing. This is the route that we chose to take. My partner did imply that when he did state that we were relying on the 2008 stimulus. So unfortunately, because they felt that this assertion would sort of glide them through the rest of the debate, they didn't address the other two specific points. They dropped both of our first and second contention. The only other thing that they talked about when they addressed our case was that our plan wouldn't necessarily create jobs. I would like to clarify two things. First of all, our plan doesn't need to be a direct unemployment plan because that's not our burden in the motion. It doesn't need to be directly addressing employment. It can just stimulate the economy, which it does. But further, I mean, we all know, getting to the second refutation I have to this, that if the economy is stimulated, jobs will be created. They mentioned that, okay, so people will buy a couple of iPads, and we say exactly, people will go out and buy a couple of iPads. If 10% of the American population bought a couple of iPads, the Apple stores would be needing to expand. There would be new stores, new employees, everybody working to help get these products to people. New jobs would be created, and even they have admitted that. So with that, because they dropped two of our contentions, and because we won every point on the flow, I asked for the vote.
Ready? As I begin, I'd like to cordially thank our judges, my partner, and our opponents for a great debate. I feel like this has been a great debate. And I'm not just giving the rehearsed rerun of a tape. I really like this debate, and I'm thanking you all for being here. I would like to apologize for the screaming and step back from today's debate, and I'm going to take a real step back because I'm going to show you why, holistically through the entire debate, we have won. And not just that we feel like we've won, I honestly know that we have won. And I'm going to prove to you that my knowledge, that the knowledge I have that we've won is going to be the knowledge you have that we've won. And this is not just something that we think. And my first voting issue, why I believe we've won, the one individual reason, is because let's look at the that went on in today's debate, the blanket refutation. We both did blanket refutation. We said, look, if we can prove to you one thing that negates all five of their arguments. And they said, look, if we can prove to you one thing that negates all of their arguments. However, there's a problem, because our blanket refutation, what we did, when we said, if we can prove to you that one thing, we actually proved that to you. We said it was legitimate. The SL train from Boston to DC was not successful. It is legitimately a high-speed rail. It was not successful. It will not be successful in California. They did not prove that to you. They did not impact out the fact that they did not give you any solid links that it would be successful. They just said, oh, it'll happen. And we said, no, it won't happen. Here's evidence. And so we actually said, no, it won't be successful, no, there's no solvency, and that does negate their whole case. For example, if I'm going to make a cake, and if their case is, the proposition team is going to make a chocolate cake, all of their arguments are basically like, oh, the chocolate is creamy, and oh, the cake is moist, and oh, it's so great. But if they literally added a cup of baking soda, and one thing messes it up, the whole cake is ruined. The fact of the matter is, the solvency of the past SL train was horrible. It was not successful. One little ingredient, one little facet of their plan is off. It's not popular. Therefore, all of their benefits are off. Now let's look at their blanket refutation. I'm doing a comparative analysis right here. They said, we don't know where the money's coming from, so it could never happen. That's it. My partner put it just perfectly. They said they could glide through refuting our case by just mentioning one little point. We don't know where the money is coming through. Now, I have three responses to this. Number one, it's just kind of petty. It's saying we're going to take standard little technical points of debate and not refute your ideas or your arguments. Parliamentary debate is a clash of ideas. It's a clash of arguments. They could have refuted our arguments. They could have had clash, but they decreased clash. And clash is one of the number one goals of debate. So they actually decreased one of the number one goals of our debate. And second, my second response is that we don't. Nowhere in parliamentary debate does it say we have to mention specifically where money comes from. Parliamentary debate is a 20-minute prep time where you debate about ideas. It's not the idea about, oh, if the CBO makes a certain statistic or whatever. In parliamentary debate, you're actually not required to have evidence. You know, it's about a clash of ideas. So when we're talking about real specifics, they're not talking about real parliamentary debate. And my third response is, even if you don't buy that, we did mention where it was coming from. We said it's basically the American, it's basically the ARRA, the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. It's pretty much the exact same thing. And we're taking the money on credit. We're borrowing that money. That's where it's coming from. We've told you that. I told you that in my first speech. My partner said that, and I'm saying it now. You know where it's coming from. Therefore, our entire case stands. The fact of the matter is, their blanket refutation didn't work. So they basically dropped our 2 points. The worst thing you can do in a debate is drop arguments. Basically, not even address them. Judges, they didn't even try to address our arguments. Our arguments, if you believe me that you know where the money is coming from, that you don't think, oh my gosh, I have no idea where that money's coming from. Of course, $800 billion is not going to come from defense. It's going to come on credit. All of our arguments stand. They're completely clear. Silence is consent. All of our arguments are perfectly clean. They never touch them. We win on this fact alone. My second voting issue that I'd like to bring up is the debacle about the Estelle train. They said the Estelle train isn't a real high-speed rail. The official name of the Estelle train is the Estelle High-Speed Rail. It's kind of sad that I can't bring you evidence because I literally have a picture of it in my binder. I'm sorry, it's protected time. But I urge you, I would urge you to Google the Estelle train because basically we're saying, yes, it is a high-speed rail. And they're saying, no, it's not. And I really hate to do this, but when you're clashing yes and no, you have to just kind of trust a team. Please trust us. We brought you statistics. We were the first team to actually mention the Estelle train. They didn't even, we don't even know if they knew that it existed. The team most knowledgeable on the subject appears to be the opposition team, appears to be our team. So you would trust us that this is a high-speed rail. There's only one Estelle train. There's only one high-speed rail. There's tons of Amtrak trains. I've been on an Amtrak train. I didn't mean to say that that's an Amtrak train. It's run by Amtrak, but it's not an Amtrak train. That's what you call the colloquial Amtrak trains. They're kind of slow. But the high-speed rail, that is different. So it is an actual high-speed rail. My last voting issue is on net benefits. Their plan won't succeed, and our plan brings you long-term success. That's net benefits, and that guarantees us the vote. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Can't even read.
Can you get grabs from me?
Alright, so finish squeezing tea.
Oh, we're laughing about how.
Alright, so I'm gonna start and now. Okay, so to begin with, we need to clear something up because this hasn't been this hasn't been a debate about there hasn't been clash about what's been on the table. There's just been clash between what they think, despite all the evidence, they said they bring up statistics, we've brought you up statistics, we've brought you up exact knowledge, we've done this research. Look at your flow, Judge, and look at who has more actual evidence, who looks like they know more what they're talking about, high-speed rails. Just think about it from that point of view. The high-speed rail, which we did know existed, Amtrak, Estelle, whoever makes it, there is only one supposed high-speed rail in the United States, and it's between, exactly like it said, the Boston and DC. This high-speed rail is designed to go, this train is designed to go 220 miles per hour. It is efficient, it is fast, it uses less oil because it goes fast, and it uses less oil because of the way it's been designed, how fast it goes, how it moves through the air, along with the type of railing system that is designed to have a 220 mile an hour hurtling train going down it. We understand this. This is what a high-speed rail, this is the high-speed rail we are talking about. The high-speed rail they are referring to, when it was built, they cut costs and they didn't use exactly what I told you about. They put a 220 miles per hour train on a regular train track. I'm not taking any POIs because this is the fact. Whether you say, just as you partner POI'd everything, when we brought this up, my opponents were both red in the face, flabbergasted. Opponent number 2 couldn't answer and said, I don't have any evidence, but please trust me on this. I think I know. We know, Judge, we've done our research, we know how this works. There's a science to it, which is why we know what we're talking about when I go into our 2 voters, which is simply their plan versus our plan, a comparison, a clash, which is how we've refuted their case. Not each little by little, but in a comparison compared to our plan, because we don't care what you think about each individual refutation. We're here to show you that our plan is superior, which is supremely better. There shouldn't be even any consideration in your mind because of how many benefits our plan has. Not right now, not at this time. Their plan, theirs, has $800 billion, which they plan to borrow. Well, here's some Uncertainty. Well, is anyone going to lend us any money after the whole credit crisis, $800 billion? Here's the doubt. That was the doubt. The uncertainty is they haven't given you any numbers, any even estimates. We don't need to have exact numbers, but even estimates, how many jobs. Therefore, you're comparing to exact numbers, exact jobs that we've given you compared to, we're pretty sure this would work because of this logic, which we've even used this logic in comparison, extending it to the rest of the state. So right now we've got proper jobs, proper money, we've shown you, it's not even like somewhat a little bit of a, oh, we think this would happen from our 20-minute prep plan. We've done this research. This is exact compared to this logic we think will get you jobs and you should vote for this because this is kind of cool. No, this is the comparison right now. So there's the uncertainty, there's the doubt, but here's the fear. I fearful that we won't even be able to pay this $800 billion back on top of the deficit and the debt that we're afraid. The deficit, the debt, all this money that has caused unemployment in the first place. And then you're comparing to $227 billion that we've shown you exact reasons, exact benefits, exact everything. So with that, I'm going to take the first and only POI. You can choose who does it.
How many more minutes of new information do you plan on using?
None of this has been, my partner used all of this and you rearranged it in your speech. She talked about how this specific train is made for this rail, etc. You blundered right over it saying, I'm pretty sure I know it. This has been their reputation. So with that, we go into our plan, which is once again reinforcing the fact that this is just in California. Makes more money than they've even brought up. 150,000 temporary jobs. This is immediately. This is, if this goes into effect, if you vote for this plan, this would go into effect tomorrow. 150,000 temporary jobs go into place tomorrow. That's money that they get to support their family immediately. That's money that they can get on a period of several months, not just $2,000, goes to their family, goes to the shop, it goes to Lisa and Brian, who my partner brought up, and then iPads, because they'll be able to afford it with these jobs. On top of those 150,000 jobs, we have 450,000 permanent jobs that we've given. So on top, this is overall 600 jobs, 600,000 jobs we've given just in the California state alone. These are exact statistics, and then you can apply the same logic. This money that they get going to the economy, making it a better place, more jobs, more iPads, more everything that they've said applies to our plan. Because they, despite the fact they ignored and think they know what they're talking about how trains work, Judge, look at the flow. Who does it look like knows more about what they're talking about? Who's giving you numbers? Who's giving you actual benefits to vote for? So with that, the net benefits from the proposition side, the jobs as well as the money, the surplus we've given, you can look back on the flow compared to the fear, uncertainty, doubt that they've supplied. I urge you to vote on the proposition. Thank you.
All right.